on stream, and then I'll go ahead and restart. Oh, it's already reset? Okay, so we'll restart in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Oops, okay. So, again, this is 100%. 100% in this game is defined as getting all these things, or these collectibles called notes and documents. And getting all of those, where there's 31 of each, actually gives you a Steam achievement, and this game doesn't actually have a 100% counter, so we use that to sort of define what 100% actually is in this game. And since this is a glitchless type of run, we won't be using any sort of glitches whatsoever. The regular 100% category with glitches uses quite a few really cool out-of-bounds skips, but we won't be doing those here. There I did a little trick where I skipped the animation of opening the door, or of opening a door, by just letting the door swing open. And that is not a glitch because I don't clip into the door while doing it. If I do happen to accidentally do a glitch, I won't freak out. We'll just continue on. So there will be certain notes like this where we have to wait for characters to speak a certain line of dialogue. So I had to wait there for that guy to finish his lines there. So real quickly in this beginning section, I'll mention the list of banned glitches. There's a trick where you can make your hitbox really small and squeeze through very tiny areas, or very tiny gaps. That's not allowed. There is a trick where you can get on top of a door in order to either go out of bounds or skip large sections of the game. That's not allowed. There is a trick where you can press crouch to trick enemies into not attacking you. That's not allowed. There is a trick where you can run across ledges by using the look behind while running animation by pressing one of the lean keys. That's not allowed. And because of that, you get to see a lot more of the game. Here, I'll be getting this document before I go in this hallway. And here we'll see something called a timed recording, where you have to record certain things for a certain amount of time. In that case, I had to record that TV there with the static on it in order to, or for long enough in order to get the recording to trigger. You'll know I got a recording or note when you see a camera icon appear in the bottom right. Same with documents. You'll see a piece of paper appear in the bottom right. One other glitch that's not allowed is animation canceling. You can press crouch to skip animations like this one where I swipe a keycard. It's not allowed, even though it might not seem like a glitch, just because it's doing an unintended action, which is canceling the animation entirely. So Father Martin there was a character that we met in an earlier cutscene. He shuts down the power there, so we have to go down to the basement to turn the power back on. And the nice thing about this locker is this note rather, is that the strat doesn't differ from regular 100%. It's the same all across the board. So there I did a little strat where I delayed leaving the locker after I got that recording. If you don't do that, Chris will hit you when you leave the locker, and when enemies manage to hit you, the knockback from that wastes about a second. We have a relatively straightforward generator section here. We have to, again, turn the power back on in order to turn on the computer in the security room. Again, making use of that door opening animation skip. Enemies in this game are very easy to avoid. They're not that much of a problem at all. But for an optimized run, you want to avoid getting hit by them at all costs because of the knockback time, or knockback thing that I mentioned earlier. That generator section I just went through is one of the tougher sections casually. But it's not too bad when you've played it thousands of times like I have. Oh, one other trick that I also forgot to mention that is banned from glitchless type of runs in this game is saving and quitting. And I guess I might as well briefly explain that. Occasionally throughout the game, there will be checkpoints, which you'll know I hit a checkpoint because you'll see a saving in the bottom left of the screen. And each checkpoint has a default spawn point they put you at when you reload a save off of them. And with this cutscene in particular, we would use the save and exit feature to skip this cutscene. But that counts as a glitch, as the Outlast community has defined it, so we can't do any save and quit related tricks. And then we have a brief cutscene here in the prison where we wake up in a cell. Father Martin wants us to see him release the Wall Rider, which is sort of the main antagonist of the game, but we don't know that quite yet. Find out more about him later. We have a brief waiting section here. We have to wait until that very polite guy opens the door for us. Hopefully I didn't miss the note there. Alright, we're good. Yep. So there actually is an audio cue for that one. We have to wait until he says, "God damn it," and then we can leave. With recordings or notes that have spoken where characters speak dialogue, in most cases you don't have to wait for the dialogue to finish. You can leave at a certain point in their dialogue. And it saves quite a lot more time than you would think. In fact, I think it saves close to a minute. At least in regular 100%. I don't know how much it saves in this. It still saves quite a lot. So we have a quick section here where we have to turn on that. We have to hit that button to get in a decontamination chamber in order to progress. And we have a couple of enemies to avoid, but they're not that difficult to avoid. That second enemy can be a bit strange. A lot of the times he tends to hit me, but sometimes I do get past him without getting hit. And getting hit by him wastes virtually no time. So it's not too big of a deal if you get hit by him. And a little trick with ledges is while I'm moving right on the ledge, I hold up and mash jump in order to get up. onto the ledge as quickly as possible. And here's another timed recording where we have to record Chris Walker tearing this guy's head off. Seems to have a real fascination for that. I guess it's his way of protecting people from the Wall Rider. Again, we'll learn more about later. But that's just him. So here in this room is the first encounter we get with an enemy named the Naked Twin. The No Out of Bounds run does a fairly tricky dodge to get past this enemy, but for glitchless, that would count as doing as an unintended action, so we have to go on the sledge here. So one other thing, if we go up to ledges, like when I went in that crawl space just there, we jump at the ledges at an angle in order to hopefully get a faster climbing animation. The glitchless categories of this game are all about very, very minor time saves like that. So, since there's not a whole lot going on in this particular category, I might as well explain the plot. We play as a investigative reporter named Miles Upshur. We get an anonymous tip about some wrongdoings that are going on within this asylum by the company, or by a company named the Murkoff Corporation. So, being the tried and true reporter we are, we go in this asylum to investigate, and things don't go too well, as you've probably seen so far, and they only get worse from here, as far as gory content is concerned, especially with a particular cutscene at around the 22-minute mark, or maybe around the 21-minute mark, I don't remember. There was a DLC, whoops, that happened. What happened was I jumped too early off that ledge, so I just have to go back up. I was mentioning that there is a DLC to this game, and check it out. I recommend looking at the Whistleblower DLC. If anything, the Whistleblower DLC is actually a better game than this, in my opinion, but I still like this game quite a lot. It's one of my favorite horror games by far. The music, in particular, is really, really good. And another thing with glitchless categories... Oh, I did a glitch there, but that's fine. We can just continue. We're not worth freaking out over that. There's a thing with the glitchless categories that isn't really a problem in the other categories of the game that use glitches, and that is battery management. Occasionally, when there's sections that are really dark, I'll have to bring up my camera and use the night vision here. Right there. But using the night vision consumes battery power, and and the idea of the game is whenever you're low on battery, you want to scavenge the environment for more batteries. So whenever you're low on battery, like I am right now, you can just reload. I did not know reloading in the middle of a crawl space stops you like that, but the more you know. Anyways. I accidentally glitched, okay? Calm down. Calm it! Anyway. We have to turn a couple of valves here, similarly to the generator section I did in the first chapter. In order to drain the water, that's blocking a ladder and needs to jump down. And there I tried another dodge with Chris Walker. That one's pretty difficult, so unfortunately I didn't get it. It's not really difficult, but it's more just a really annoying dodge. I usually never get it a lot of the time. And we'll have to dodge him on the way back, but this one is a lot easier than the first one. So hopefully I get it. And I got it, cool. Again, avoiding that knockback to not lose about a second. So in other categories, particularly with no out of bounds, there will be a jump I do here to skip climbing down this ladder. But that's banned in glitchless because that technically counts as doing an intended action once again. But the nice thing with ladders is once you get at a certain point on the ladder, you can press crouch to get off the ladder. So as I go down each ladder that I'm going down, I mash space, or not space, but crouch. And that gets me off the ladder as quickly as I can. It's banned because it's not, the ladder skip isn't an intended mechanic. I meant unintended. I tend to mumble a lot, so that's probably why you couldn't hear me very well. But anyways, we have another note here. The audio cue for this one is when he says Dr. Wernicke. Right there. Again, pressing crouch to get off this ladder as quickly as possible. And the rest of the sewers is pretty straightforward. Like most of this run is, but there aren't any tricks for the rest of the chapter. Well, except for one, but I'll mention that when it happens. Alright, so normally movement through water is very slow, but you can kind of negate that by just jumping through it. You don't want to constantly spam jump though, because when you do that, you gradually lose speed. So I spaced out my jumps while I'm going through the water here in order to get the most distance out of my jumps that I possibly can, which you'll see again in just a second. Right here. Basically, I wait a split second once Miles touches the ground, and then I jump. So, we have another enemy dodge there, but that guy is pretty much impossible to avoid without getting hit. And when I say pretty much impossible, I mean it. He's very hard to avoid without getting hit. There are a couple of people that have managed to get past him without getting hit, but it's very, very rare. So as soon as we go through the crawl space there, we'll record this pile of bodies. These stairs that I'm going up can be really laggy, and it's really annoying, but they played nice that time. And glitchless doesn't allow saving and quitting, as I said, so we have to deal with the lag on those stairs. And this next note that I'm getting can be a little weird with how to trigger it. Sometimes it can take a few extra seconds to trigger, like it did just there. Another document here. I'm actually really glad I got that quick climb animation because I tend to mess it up a lot of the time. So we got it. Oh, another trick that's banned is when you would do right here if you were doing no out of bounds. There is a trick where while you're falling out of events, if you press crouch, or not crouch, but jump as soon as you land, you can still jump and with sort of short little bunny hops, and those jumps have more speed than your normal jumps. And you would do it again here once I get out of this vent. And that's banned in glitchless because that counts as an unintended or glitched action because you're jumping but in a crouched state. And here I'll jump at a certain point to hopefully get a quick climb animation, which I didn't get, but it's fine. So when I go in this room, I'll close the door here. If I don't do that, then a couple of enemies will hit me as soon as while I'm interacting with this crawl space. And that wastes a little bit of time. So yeah, we have the best part of the game here, which is a long 4-minute cutscene. And it's with the best character of the game, in my opinion at least, whose name is Dr. Traeger. So I guess I'll explain the plot behind Traeger, or at least try to. Dr. Traeger isn't actually a doctor, shocker. He's actually an executive of the Murkoff Corporation that I mentioned earlier when I explained the plot of the game. Murkoff Corporation is sort of this company that took over this asylum, and under the guise of charity work, they did experiments in this asylum with nanobots, which I'll explain more of later when we get to the last chapter. And they used a test called the morphogenic engine in order to create those nanobots, and they subjected Traeger here to those experiments, and Traeger ended up going insane. And there's a character that we met earlier that I didn't touch on, where the character explains that there are these groups people called variants roaming the asylum. The variants are basically the enemies of this game. And Traeger is technically not a variant yet. He still has this, calm demeanor or calm attitude about him. But soon after this cutscene, he will turn to a variant and try to chase us and kill us. Spoilers. And the reason why he has this doctor moniker is when he first went insane, I believe what happened was he started experimenting with different types of surgery. I believe that's how the lore goes with Traeger. It's been a while since I actually looked the lore up, so I'm probably getting it wrong, but that's what I remember. And when I run this game for PBs, I name this split in my splits Resident Sleeper Ward. Simply because there's not a whole lot that goes on. It's just very uneventful. Particularly because it's bisected by a 4-minute cutscene like this one.
I hope you haven't been letting him confuse you with all this holier-than-thou Bible thumping. No offense to the man, but I sometimes worry he might just be a little bit crazy. It's understandable when people get scared. There's like to turn to God as anything else. And God died with the gold standard. We're on to a more concrete faith now. You have to rob Paul to pay Peter. There's no other way. Murder is the simplest form.
Yes, indeed, would send Bible thumping.
Well, mine becomes a matter of faith. And that's what I'm here for. To make you believe.
Alright, so he gives us a long-winded speech here, and at the end he just decides to cut off her fingers. For no good reason, he just does. Because, you know, the game has to be edgy with some gore mixed in. Thankfully, we don't see that much gory content anyways. A lot of the particularly gory content is in optional areas that we don't go to. Alright, so we have a little minigame here where we get ourselves out of this wheelchair by waggling our mouse. It doesn't matter how fast you move your mouse, that minigame there always goes at the same speed every time. So we have another waiting section here until Traeger gets in the room, because we have to get another recording. Yes, Amnesia, Machine for Pigs. So I can't go too close to Traeger here once he enters the room, otherwise I'll aggro him. And you don't want that because you won't need... Oh, okay. Well, I guess I have to reload the checkpoint then, because I accidentally aggroed Traeger. I really thought I was far enough away from him, but apparently I wasn't. So yay, 40 seconds lost, but whatever. And it's really unfortunate that I lost time to something as stupid as that, but we'll just continue on. Alright, so I'll wait a little longer this time, and hopefully Traeger doesn't notice me. That was my bad. Okay, that looks good. Much better, okay. So that was dumb time loss, but whatever. You can still continue.
You're bored. You want a little attention. Perfectly understandable. I'm here for you. I'll give you very soon.
Alright, so as soon as he says, I give you, we can leave. And right there, I just got the recording. So this chase sequence with Traeger is actually one of the more difficult sections of the game if you're playing the game for the first time. But as far as the speedrun is concerned, there's a pretty easy way to avoid him. Just lure him in this room, jump to the side to dodge him, and then close the door on him. And as I sort of briefly mentioned during the cutscene, right now during the chase sequence he is a full-on variant, and a trait with variants is they don't know how to open doors, so they just bash them open. So we keep Traeger busy by closing the door, and while he's busy bashing down the door, we push an object that's blocking the door we need to go through, and then go through the door. And as soon as I drop down here, I'll go into this bathroom stall to get another documents. The thing with 100% is you can sometimes just forget where notes and documents are, and that's bad because that pretty much invalidates your run if you happen to forget one. So we have another dodge or Traeger there, but it's pretty simple. You just jump to the side and then continue on. By the way, I did save and quit on that earlier checkpoint where Traeger accidentally, or I accidentally had Traeger notice me, but, and that counts as a glitch, but again, we'll just continue on. No, not worth crying over spilt milk, as it were. If I was going for a PB, that would invalidate my run, but it doesn't matter too much for a marathon run. So as soon as I gain control of Miles, I pull up my camera to get another recording there. So there's this fire here in the cafeteria, and in order to progress to the rest of the game, we need to get rid of this fire by turning on the sprinklers and another fetch quest coming up. As soon as he says lunatics, we can leave.
Because nobody cares about a few forgotten lunatics.
Right there.
So let it burn. Burn the whole goddamn thing down.
There we go. So we have another fetch quest, as I mentioned, where we have to turn on the sprinklers, and this is one of the scarier fetch quests of the game. Where it's not really a fetch quest, but I just prefer to call it that. We'll be encountering Chris again, and what makes it so scary is there's the off chance that if he does manage to hit you, he'll grab you when you go through a crawl space after finishing this sort of puzzle section here. Thankfully that time he didn't hit us there. That first dodge is pretty easy to get. Just jump to the side. That's it. Alright, so that's the second sprinkler valve there. We just have to avoid Chris and hopefully not get grabbed by him. So hopefully I don't get hit by him here. Ooh, okay, we got hit by him, so this could be bad. Okay, this will be really close. Ooh. Alright, we got past that first try. We're good. That was extremely close. I'm pretty sure I was extremely close to getting grabbed by him. So that's like the only remotely difficult part of this run. That one little fetch quest with the sprinklers. So yeah, I briefly mentioned battery management earlier on in the sewers. In an ideal glitchless run, you wouldn't get any extra batteries, but for marathon safety, I will get a couple of extra, starting with this one in this shack here. And this courtyard chapter is where we first get to meet the Wall Rider, who is the antagonist of the game. And we'll actually get up close and personal with him in a second with another note. As soon as we open this door. So I got that fairly quickly, but could have been a bit quicker. The Strat for that in terms of a glitchless type of run is a bit finicky. But I got the recording to trigger fairly quickly there. And I was a little scared there because I almost went off the roof. But we're fine. This is the only skip you can really do in glitchless. If I can actually get it and not be a fool. Okay, so we just run off the side there. I'm going to turn our camera in order to grab onto the ledge. And that's faster. It might seem slower, but it actually is faster compared to the normal ledge shimming animation. Reload my camera here while going across this concrete. Oh, I hope you guys have been enjoying the run so far, even though there's been a lot of empty space where I haven't been commentating much. Both of the runs I'll be doing tonight are pretty chill. This game especially. So as soon as we get to this point on the ledge right here, we're going to jump off. We do take fall damage, but it's not that big of a deal. And here we'll be getting hit by Chris. If we don't have him hit us there, or at the very least take a swing at us, he'll grab us as we go in the vent and throw us in the opposite direction, which we don't want, because that's a time waste. I turned back there to record that fountain. And now we're in the female ward. We are already at the third to last chapter of the game. This chapter in regular 100% is actually really interesting, and it's one of the shorter chapters as well. Since I reloaded and I also got that extra battery, I may not have to get an extra battery that I initially planned on getting. Good commentary, thank you, Robastian. It's good to hear. So there's a recording you can get by that elevator, but I'm gonna wait and get it on my way up. It's more time efficient by doing that. Yeah, 100% you do a save warp around this area, but that's banned in this category, or at least in glitchless categories of this game. There we go. So we have another fetch quest once again. We have to get a few fuses in order to turn on a laundry chute. Went the long way there for a second. To get a few fuses to turn on a laundry chute. From that laundry chute we'll get a key that will let us get to the third floor of the female ward. Battery's fairly low, but I'll wait to reload it until the end of this fetch quest. So that enemy there hit us twice, but it's not that huge of a deal. And I'm doing a little route here where I go to this room last. It's slightly faster because there's a door that the enemy opens that would normally be in this hallway if you went here first. It does save time. It saves about, I don't know how much, but it does save time. I think it's about 2.5 seconds. Ow. Uh-oh. Ooh. Okay, I thought it was going to hit me again there. I probably would have died from that, but we got past him, so we're fine. So when your battery's really low like that, your night vision is less effective. And that is the prime reason why you want to reload your battery when your battery energy is low. So we got the keys, so we'll go to the third floor now. There is an enemy there that tries to chase after us, but we outrun him very easily. Here I'll try to get a quick climb animation, but I usually don't get it. I botched the jump, so I guess we're not going to get it. Oopsies. That's fine though. It's like a very, very minor time save. Which for a PB would matter, but if you happen to miss it in a marathon run, like I did just there, it's not that huge of a deal. There is a jump to skip this event where I fall down this hole, but that counts as a glitch. So it's not allowed in glitchless categories. Glitchless categories in games are, at least with horror games like this, that tend to be very broken. The definitions for glitchless categories of these games are very arbitrary anyway. I think we'll kind of see that with the next game that I'll be running, with Amnesia. We have a little cutscene here where we drop our camera down a hole. And we have to go back down and retrieve it. Now this is the section that is probably the most terrifying part when you play the game casually. Because so far, whenever you've gone through a dark area, you've had the night vision from your camera to rely on. But in this section, that tool gets taken away from you. So you sort of have to face your fears and go into the darkness. And that's great as far as a casual playthrough is concerned because it adds to the atmosphere, but it can be a little annoying to navigate through in a speedrun. But we got through this area pretty quickly, and it's actually not that difficult to navigate through even without night vision. Especially when you've played the game a lot like I have. You only need 2 fingers and your thumbs to pick things up? Yeah, exactly. Miles is doing just fine. I'm going to try to get a quick climb animation here as I climb up this wood, and we got it. The positioning for that is a little awkward because of how tiny that ledge hitbox is. But usually I get it a lot of the time. Even if you happen to mess that up, it's not that huge of a time loss. So here I'll be doing something that looks like a glitch, but it's fine because I'm not doing a glitch to actually perform the jump.
Only one way out. Only one way.
That skips having to crawl across a few ledges in order to drop down where I ended up jumping there. And now we're at the second to last chapter, which is the return to admin block. The first chapter we went through was the admin block, and we'll be making a return trip to that area. And there's a document we have to get. In regular 100%, you would use a trick called door boosting to get to it. But of course that's banned in this category, so we have to take the long way around. Lagged a little bit there, but we're fine. So while glitchless doesn't allow many glitches, I liked a little bit there, but we're fine. So while glitchless doesn't allow many glitches, or tricks rather, there is one little trick I'm doing here that's probably the flashiest gift of the entire game. As far as glitchless is concerned, we do a jump off of that box, and that gets us part way up the ladder. It's my favorite thing about the glitchless categories of this game. Did drop quite a few frames there, but that's fine. It's all good, guys. Cutscene or cinematic with later on in the last chapter. And the audio cue for this is when Wernicke says ecstatic rage. As soon as he says that, we can leave. And the frame drops here are a bit worrying, because I'm not sure how Amnesia will go, but we'll see. I've already dropped like 2,200 frames. This is why I was a bit doubtful about using OBS. Alright, so there's the audio cue there. And if I left at the right time, we'll still get the recording. I keep calling them recordings, they're actually called notes. I just prefer to call them recordings. I have to trigger that jump scare there by opening the door. So this door opens so we can go across the ledge in order to get the key that we need to get to the 3rd floor. Alright, so we'll just drop down here by pressing crouch like we did with the ladder. And here we'll be having an encounter with an enemy that we came across in the prison. It's the Naked Twin again. Hopefully I get it. Alright, so that's actually a bit more dangerous than it looks. If you manage to get hit by the Naked Twin, it is a one-hit kill. You instantly die. So you want to avoid getting hit by that enemy in particular at all costs. Here I'll be taking a slight pit stop to record this TV to get another recording. And just down the hallway here is another document. I believe it's in this room. Okay, I was wrong. It's like one more room down. Normally with the locations of the notes and documents, I remember where they are, just going off of the glitch route, but of course we're doing glitchless. And that, having to deal with that messed me up a lot when I originally routed this category. Because I was so used to getting those notes and documents from out of bounds. And here we'll be getting the key to an elevator that will lead to the last chapter of the game. And we're locked in here for a little bit, so we have to watch Father Martin die. There is a glitch you can do in order to leave this room and not have to watch the cutscene, but that, of course, is a glitch, so that's banned in this category. So we have to wait here. There is an audio cue for this recording, though. As soon as he says elevator, we can leave. Although in this particular case with glitchless, I'll just put the camera down as soon as he starts burning. Because what happens during this cutscene is he lights himself on fire as a sacrifice of sorts. As he says, it's our penultimate act of witness, purportedly. There, we just got the recording, and we have to dodge Chris again here, but he's pretty easy to avoid once again. We just lure him to the right of this hallway, and then jump to the side. Alright. And we're moving on to the last chapter of the game. We're already at that point of the run. Okay, so this last chapter is pretty straightforward. There is one trick we get to do in this chapter as far as a glitchless run is concerned, and I'll mention that when it comes up. For the most part of this chapter is pretty straightforward. Even in the glitched categories as well, because there's pretty much no way to get out of bounds in this chapter. I've found a way to do it, but the method that I found involves modifying the game files, which it would, of course, would not be allowed for the normal categories of the game. So this chapter is pretty Loctite as far as breaking it is concerned. I already left my camera there because I was low on battery. And I'll open this door on the right here because Chris Walker will come through this hallway, and he only opens the left door. So if you open the left door, the right door will still be open when you come back through this area, and going around that wastes a few frames. So it's one of those minor time savers once again. Hopping over those objects that I vault over as well is a minor time saver. The level of optimization that goes into this chapter is just crazy, and it shows with how close the top times are in any percent. And we have a cutscene here where Chris Walker gets killed by the Wall Rider. Well, the Wall Rider here doesn't actually kill Chris because he was intending to help us. He kills Chris here just because he got in his way. And the Wall Rider is a product of the nanobot experiments that I mentioned earlier in the Traeger cutscene. And you get that recording for free. Alright, so we have a little cinematic here where we meet up with Dr. Wernicke. He gives us this big plot dump here. It's like I mentioned during the Traeger cutscene, where there's a company called the Murkoff Corporation that experimented with nanobots in this asylum in order to create super soldiers. And the test subjects they used for those experiments are the patients within the asylum, as well as some of the CEOs or executives of their own company. And those experiments didn't go too well, as you can probably tell by this carnage here. So yeah, with the glitch categories of this game, we found no way to skip past this cutscene. The holy grail of Outlast speedruns would be to find some way to skip this in the glitch categories at least, but alas, we haven't found a way to do that. We've gotten pretty darn close to it, but We haven't found such a method that actually works. Alright. So it gives us a task, or the task, of killing a guy named Billy Hope. Billy Hope is this guy who's been controlling the wall rider the entire game. So in order to kill him, we have to do three things. We have to turn off his life support fluid by turning a valve. We have to cut the wires to that life support system, and then we have to turn off the failsafe to that life support system. Stacking here is a little weird. You kind of have to move into the desk in order to be able to grab it. I'll bring up my camera here in order to get this recording as soon as these big doors open. And on these screens is a little taste of the morphogenic engine that I mentioned earlier. I moved backwards there after getting that document in order to record Billy Hope for another note. I'll have my camera up here when opening the store in order to get another recording there. Alright, so I did mention that there is one trick in this chapter that you can do in all categories of the game, including glitchless, because it's technically not a glitch. And it's this little jump right here. We vault over the railing there, land on those gas tanks, and then jump off of those gas tanks for a little extra distance. It saves a little bit of time compared to just going down the stairs again. And we're nearing the end of the run. We have about 3-some minutes left. Be going up these very long flights of stairs. One optimization that I didn't mention actually is that alongside all of the other tricks that I mentioned, I've been jumping towards objects, and that saves a little bit of time compared to just running straight towards them. And there I did a jump to get a quicker climb animation, which I'm actually surprisingly consistent at, considering how not really exact, but how dangerous that jump can be, because if you jump too early, you'll die from fall damage, and that has happened to me once when I tried an any percent run with one hand. Shoutouts to one-handed any percent. It's actually a pretty fun meme category. So after cutting the life support wires there, we'll just be moving down to the same route that I went through earlier. We'll jump across this gap here to trigger a cutscene where the wall rider throws us down. Yes, Sebastian. One-handed 8% is a pretty fun run. I may try like one-handed no out of bounds in the future, but that's a later project. So we'll be doing an animation skip here. It's the only animation skip that's really allowed in glitchless, outside of pressing crouch to go off ladders and ledges. So here we have a little cutscene. Starting from when we hit that button to the end, I actually don't know how long it is until the end once we hit the button, but I'd approximate it's around 2 minutes. So at this point in the game, as far as the plot is concerned, we've successfully killed Billy Hope, but the Wall Rider here needs a living human in order to survive, and we just so happen to be the nearest human, so we go into our Miles's body there. And we have one last note that we need to get, which is not Traeger, I almost said Traeger, but Billy Hope in this bloodied up morphogenic engine chamber. Alright, and hopefully I didn't miss any notes or documents. I'll do a quick count after I call time. There's a trick here you would do in other categories, where you climb up to a railing that's to my right, and it would skip the cinematic of Miles stumbling around. And it's banned in this category because of the way the Outlast community defines glitchless. So time is coming up really soon here. As soon as Miles's hand touches the ground to start the ending cutscene, that will be time. Coming up in a few seconds here. And time. So that wasn't too bad of a run, although I feel my movement was sloppy in some parts, particularly in the female ward where I got lost in that one fetch quest. So we'll do a quick count here of my notes and documents to be sure that I got everything. Alright, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Okay, that's all the notes. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Yay! We did not miss a collectible. Alright. We did it. I got a run the other day that was a PB by 7 seconds, but I missed one note. But hey, that happens sometimes. So anyways, what was my time? And of course, we'll be doing Amnesia as well, so I'll just move straight over to that. It might lag a lot more than Outlast because of how intensive the game is with my laptop, but it shouldn't go that poorly, I don't think. The ending to this game, by the way, is very anticlimactic. Basically, Miles just gets shot to death. That's about it. So yeah, we'll be moving over to a machine for pigs really quick. We're moving straight into it. So pretty much die before you can tell the truth. Yeah, you do actually leak the information about Murkoff's wrongdoings in the DLC as a character named Waylon Park, but that's a different game. Anyways, I do want to know my time before I start up the next game. $141? Alright. I wanted sub hour for this run, but it's not that big of a deal that I can get sub hour. As long as I'm under estimate, I'll be happy with that. Alright. Let me just put Amnesia on stream 1 sec. Boom. Alright. Oh yeah, 1 quick sec actually. Alright, just wanted to take care of something really quick, or I'll get to start this game. Just let me know when you've reset the timer. Timing doesn't start on New Game, by the way. It starts at a later point in the intro cutscene. Ready? Alright.